Hello and welcome to War Down South, the bi-weekly Warhammer podcast from three idiots on the south coast of the UK. I am your host, Callum Slater, and this week we will be joined, as usual, by my co-hosts, Mr. Sam Nice.
Wagwan Shabati Chris.
And Mr. Ricky Robson.
G'day, mate.
Fantastic. Two ridiculous accents is exactly what people wanted. This week on episode 3, we will be going over, as per usual, the pre-releases, pre-orders, new releases, and GW's preview over the last couple of weeks. And in the main segment, we are joined by Black Library author and wonderful thespian and silky smooth voice gentleman, Mr. Ben Counter,
Sploosh.
as we go through Sploosh, as we go through our some details about him, his backstory and how he fits into the community at large, and then we'll take a walk along memory lane about some of our best and worst experiences when playing games, at events, and in the hobby in general. So sit back, grab a stiff drink. Let's go. Okay, fantastic. Thanks for joining us. I'm still your host, Callum, and I am joined by Ricky Robson.
Hey, guys.
And Mr. Sam Nice.
Hello.
It's going to be like that already. How are we guys? How are you guys doing this week? What you been up to?
Not much. It's been a very, very busy week. Managed to squeeze in a little bit of hobby around work, encroaching in on my free time, but I'm punishing myself by batch painting 40 Renegade infantry at once. So at some point, the imaginary Mr. Miyagi is going to appear from my brain and ask me to demonstrate paint the overalls, and I will have that moved down to a T.
Oh, well, it's a good technique to have in the bag. So I assume that's work encroaching on free time, and by that you mean work is encroaching on the time that you're actually supposed to be working during the week.
Shut up!
We don't know who listens to this. Stop it.
And what about yourself, Ricky?
I've actually started my custodies, so I've built my first five guys. My 4 custodian guard and my my banner stick bearer thingy bob. What do they call them?
Vexillers.
That's it, Vexillers.
I can see you're really into them already.
Oh,
yeah.
It's
Lore-rich project. This.
Oh, it's the
deep,
fancy
deep
words,
in.
mate. It's the fancy words. And I started doing the base for my first shield captain. So I've actually done a fair bit of hobby this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
And,
what about you?
So I've had an interesting couple of weeks. I've started a new 40k project.
Another one.
Not you. Not
another one.
Not Captain Hobby ADD.
Where were we?
And this isn't a bit. Like, I am actually doing a new project pretty much every time we're recording. But I had a lot of fun playing with the Night Army I got from you, Sam, in a few games, and then my mind started to wonder: do you actually want to build and paint some knights? Because these are done, these are lovely, but what if you want different ones? And then I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole and thought, if I do a project to last me the end of the year, that will keep me satisfied.
Surely, no, not you going down a hobby rabbit hole again.
Yeah, I go down one, and then that leads to others, which is very dangerous. Why do
I feel there's a Yoda quote here somewhere?
Not quite. But,
waiting for a terribly animated Callum to bumble into the Katata fish that has also fallen down the hobby rabbit hole.
So in picking up an already painted army that I could use to sub into events and not have to paint an army, I've then bought and now I'm looking to do another project for events and playing going forward. But I'm doing knights. I've decided to do a Questa Mechanicus household. And the idea is that everything's going to be super heavily converted. So lots of trailing pipes and weapon swaps and repositionings and big smokestacks and engines and all of that wacky steampunk nonsense that you kind of see in the old almost like John Blanche in artwork and stuff.
All I can say is you better have a knight with a monocle.
I've
Big
not got one
steampunk
so
monocle.
far, but
or a pocket one.
That might have to be. That might actually have to be on the cards now. I did pick up a Castellan on my way home from work today.
Oh Jesus!
Because I've
because
I've been in the office for 1 day now, and I decided to reward myself with a Castellan.
Good job.
So yeah,
Great job,
I think
buddy.
I'm strong. I'm going through the 12 steps of repentance for my hobby alcoholism. Not my actual alcoholism. If anybody ever tries to take that out of my hands, I will fight them for it. Which leads me to ask, what are you guys drinking this week, Mr. Ricky?
I'm not so fancy this week. But I did venture into Captain Morgan's new tiki mango and pineapple rum.
That's pretty fancy.
Well, it's off the shelf, so not as fancy. But it's good.
Not the top shelf with the sticky magazines and foreign boozes, no?
No, I still shop in supermarkets for my booze.
Was this the stuff that you messaged us earlier in the week and labelled lemonade good, Coke bad?
That's it. That's the one. Yeah.
Technical notes, it's important.
Well, neat. It's actually really nice as well. It's got a good. You can really taste the fruit in it. It's nice. Then you mix it with lemonade. You've got almost like a tropical cocktail. I just didn't think it mixed with Coke very well.
No, I
can't imagine pineapple Coke being great.
No.
What about you, Sam? Coffee, lemonade?
Absolutely
water?
nothing. I am sat here willing the first layer of skin inside my mouth back into existence after a molten cheese incident that we won't go into.
Okay. So one week Sam will indulge in the other half of this podcast and actually have a fudging beer or something.
You will let his inner self go.
Yeah. And I can't wait because Drunk Sam is one of my favourite Sams.
He needs to be kept under wraps.
I am being super white trash this week because
White lightning.
Not incredibly white trash.
Cloudy lemonade and white label tequila.
No.
Oh, special brew.
No. Let me finish the sentence and then I'll tell you.
Super.
I didn't have the opportunity to pop by a convenience store on the way home for my booze because I was picking up a night instead. So I have just dug out some cans of Budweiser.
Oh.
And that's what we've got today. And I absolutely hate it. But you know what? It's there. I had a long, hard day at work.
Where did it even come from?
I
know how much you hate that stuff.
Yeah, I think I picked it up to replace the ones that I had drunk with my housemates when I was tired and needed. And
you bought apology beer.
Yeah,
that you are now drinking.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it works.
Yeah, that's legit.
I bought it. It's mine.
I'll allow it.
I do it with the other half all the time. Like she buys booze for herself, I drink it.
Yeah. You're almost married, so that's fine. Okay, cool. So let's roll on because we've got a bit of a tight schedule this week. So new things. We had a Games Workshop preview last Saturday. So that'd be the 22nd, I think.
Something like that.
Yes, yeah 22nd. So one of GW's. I think this would have been the Nova preview. I think that's where we fall in the calendar. Obviously, we don't actually have the big American tournaments going on to mark my calendar by, so I'm pretty sure that's what this would have been for, which is cool. So has anybody got any favourites from that? There was quite a lot, so we probably won't go through everything. But anything you guys pick up from that you particularly wanted to?
The first thing has got to be the newest, biggest, shiniest cowboy on the frontier, that Necron gunslinger.
The Hexmark Destroyer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Any guy running around the 41st million with multiple pistols and then the ability to have a cowboy hat on should be in every army that can take him.
Yep.
I agree. So that's pretty cool. I like that they're expanding the Necron range into more of the Destroyer cults. And it seems to be, given the little blurb that that they released within that, it's something that happens to Necrons. So they're not designed to be destroyers. They just go mad. And this guy decided to remove all of his hands and glue pistols to them instead. And it wants to go around killing everything with gun hands, which is pretty rad.
Is that what happens? Is it they kind of go on a bit of a loopy thing? Because I think they were talking about it in the old preview on Saturday, where they were saying like they're almost like they don't like the idea of what the other Necrons are up to. They just want to kill everything.
Yes, I'm not sure if it's like a tech virus or like as something caused by the biotransference or something. But I just like the idea that he's just like, you know what, I don't like this world. Picks up like 10 pistols, weld these to my hands.
Hands off a chump.
Let's go.
But each one's got like a little eyeball, isn't it? It's so good.
Yeah, they're really knocking it out of the park with these new Necron sculpts. That guy's just stunning.
Yeah, very cool stuff. Ricky, anything you see from the GW preview that you're a big fan of?
I really like the new Necromunda stuff. The Cawdors, not the Cawdors. Oh,
the Orlocks.
Orlocks, beg your pardon. Close, they're similar names. The new Orlocks with the little jetpacks, and the guy with the big crushy fists, and obviously
the cyber doggos.
More doggos.
More doggos to the 41st millennium. Yeah, so it's cool. So this is the so I think this is the third like big expansion book dedicated to a particular house. So we've already had the Goliath and the Escher ones, and I think the Escher booster add-on box is actually out tomorrow on Saturday. So that's cool. Yeah. So the Orlocks tend to be like your generic like sci-fi biker gang. So they've got a mix of really cool aesthetics and actually some jump infantry, which is
that was pretty neat.
I don't think we've ever actually seen in Necromunda before. I know that there was the spires, and one of them could like kind of fly.
Yeah, there was the yell
fly a little bit up, but he could float a long distance down. It was more of a glider, wasn't it? Like
rubbish Batman.
Yeah.
So seeing some guys run around with actual like jump packs is really cool. Seeing some actual human-sized things with jump packs is cool. So I'm sure there's loads of people who are going to be bodging them together for conversions for whatnot.
Elysian drop troops.
Yeah, I mean, would that be cheaper than how much the Elysians were when they were available for Forge World? Probably. That'll be interesting to see. Cool. So there was a couple of other big things. So we've seen the next big sort of dual box for Age of Sigmar, which is the Slaanesh, the Hedonites of Slaanesh versus the Daughters of Cain.
Shadow and Pain.
Looks like Shadow and Pain. Darkness and pointy things where you didn't want pointy things to go. So that's great. It looks like a really good value box, like most of the AOS ones are, with a new character in each, so some sort of big human gimpy cult leader for the Slaanesh.
Lots of snake people.
Yeah, and lots of snake people, which are the coolest thing about the Daughters of Cain. Lots of Melusi running around, so it'll be interesting to see what buffs they give out, and whether or not this is going to herald new books for both of those armies. I know the Hedonites of Slaanesh are
not particularly old, but
not particularly old, but from the grumblings that you used to hear from the AOS community when they came out, they pretty much ruined the game from what I hear. Apparently they're back in their place, but possibly herald some new books there, because the Daughters of Cain one's quite old now. So that would be quite cool. And the new Warcry box. So the first Warcry box was great value, came with a load of terrain, a load of beasties, and 2 awesome warbands. And now this one has has got the lovely sort of dark elf Shadow Warband that GW previewed at the start of lockdown. So loads of guys like having mist trailing around them and cloaks made of like shadow and stuff, and that looks awesome. And the last Chaos Warband to be released, which is the
I can't remember what they're called. I've literally written their name down as Bernie Boys.
See, I got Bernie Boys, so we're pretty close. And they're outstanding models. They've got
they're gorgeous,
like almost like a Japanesey samurai feel to some of them. And then on fire, which is absolutely rad. But the thing that I love about this box is how much like classic Warhammer Quest the tiles and doorways look like.
I saw. Yeah,
there's like chasms and flame pits and stuff all between all of the floor tiles. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god, you could play Classic Quest on this, and that would be amazing." Now, there's nothing wrong with the current Warhammer Quest, but Classic Quest has got a
special place in my heart, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely love it to bits. So I saw that and I thought that was amazing.
What was the name of that worst knight in the world you used to have, the Bretonian?
Florent d'Artois.
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah, butchering the French language. Couldn't speak. So I had him in classic Warhammer Quest campaigns and fantasy role playing campaigns. Like would not speak Riekspiel, so wouldn't speak anything to do with the Empire, and wasn't actually speaking Bretonian, just speaking English with a terrible, outrageous French accent, which
I'm so French.
So French, and terrible at his job. Failed every quest he went on, lost all of his like questing points, thrown out of castles, shooting crossbows. What a time to be alive!
Singing "She's Only the Emperor's Daughter."
Yeah, she's only the Emperor's daughter. Got us out of exactly 0 situations. Cool. So other than that, we saw the Crusade book for chapter approved and the new terrain book for chapter approved, which
I like.
Not really got a lot. Yeah, it's got a lot of potential. I think it's just going to be one of those things that will be helpful for certain people within the community, and the majority of the community is just going to ignore. I mean, I saw a lot of people complaining about it, thinking that it was going to be just a sort of book about this is how you put terrain down on a table, but it seems to have some like ideas on how to create events where people bring their own terrain, and then how you do that to create balanced tables. But didn't really see a lot about it. But could be helpful for people just starting up clubs and like independent tournaments, to save an organizer, shifting everything to an event themselves and like putting out 10 tables worth of terrain. If everybody could bring an obscuring piece of terrain, a dense piece of terrain, and then something else, you're pretty much sorted for all of your games if you're running it that way. So that's quite cool. So hopefully we'll see some more information on that. I feel we'll probably ignore it unless it's got like fixed terrain plans for competitive play. That would be interesting. That's something that I didn't used to like about how a lot of events ran their ITC tournaments, where every table was set terrain. So if it was different from game to game, and they just gave some general ideas, or there was 6-7 different layouts, that could be cool. But I think it's just sort of wait and see to whether or not that's useful. So what else did we see?
The new expansion for Underworlds has been named.
I was about to say the new season.
Diachasm. Yes. And with a sexy little chameleon skink as well.
Yes, yeah. So the Diachasm box seems to have some Lumineth Realm Lords, which is really cool. And
again, was it Slanesh again?
Yeah, another Slanesh thing, which definitely makes me think they've got a book coming. If they've got their own warband, but that's cool. Yeah, and the preview of what everybody hopes will be a Seraphon warband with a chameleon skink, which is a plastic chameleon skink because the models have been the same way since I started the hobby. So that'd be cool.
So you mentioned obviously you think there's a new book coming. So if you watch the preview, they mentioned some of the artwork and the images of Slanesh. She's snapping her chains.
Yes, yeah.
So she's obviously got out, or it's got out.
They've got out.
He's got out.
let's not go down that road. Yeah, so that's very cool. So sort of leading into that, the next sort of expansion to AOS is called Broken Realms.
That's it.
Which seems to be focusing on the elven gods to start with, sort of rising out of the pantheon of order gods to try and put Nagash and Archeon back in their place. And that can only mean, hopefully down the line, we're going to get Malekith's weird demon elf faction. Oh, he's not called Malekith anymore, is he? Malarian.
Malarian, that's it.
Malarian. That's an IP protectable name rather than Malekith, I think. So that would be cool. We might see Tyrion down the line as well with his world-eating sword. But obviously, the greatest foe for the elven gods is Slanesh. So that would be quite cool to see how Slanesh reacts to being cut open and all of the elf souls at the end of the world, at the end of the old world being cut out and just divvied up amongst all of the elven gods.
And then left in a celestial motel bathtub full of ice.
yeah. Absolute dump and run. No map, no idea where you are, just left on a dirt road.
Do the two worlds between 40k and AOS still entwine when it comes to godly beings like the Chaos Gods and stuff?
I think they're probably now as far apart as they've ever been.
Yeah, because I can't recall them. The timeline's kind of coming together much anymore.
No.
Yeah, there were always in old fantasy a few hints towards one another, aside from having gods of the same name.
Yeah,
and orcs existing.
Of course. Yeah.
I think keeping them as distinct as possible is probably a smart move because then it creates two distinct game systems with different flavors.
And it keeps all the old weirdos like me out of your shop.
Yes.
My Chaos Warrior has a shuriken catapult. Yeah.
This is just Warhammer. Warhammer with guns.
Oh God, not him.
It's an old local character who didn't like 40k because it wasn't Bretonnians.
Warhammer with guns. And I remember him getting particularly irate when we had to explain how you roll sevens. It's only got 6 sides.
Which a lot of people won't know how you roll sevens because they're not as old as we are. Brilliant. Cool. So anything else anybody's seen that's up for pre-order?
I like the preview of the Night Lord Terminators, and then I looked at them again not long before we jumped on here, and I thought maybe the weird skin aprons looked a bit nutsacky, if I'm honest, and less sold on them than I was before.
That could be a case of bizarre Forge World paint jobs, though.
Yeah, I mean it's very nutty.
Possibly that. Yeah, I mean I don't spend a lot of time looking at nutsacks to be able to catch them at a glance. Like you seem to be.
I am a connoisseur.
You should be checking your nutsack every night after a warm bath.
Okay,
I'll do it for him. It's fine.
That's not social distancing, and I'm really worried.
He doesn't know, obviously.
And this is so not getting cut, is it?
No, not getting cut. Not getting cut. But also, I really don't want to go down that dark path. Okay, cool. So I think we've pretty much covered anything. Like, there's been a few like little splash releases over the last couple of weeks, but I think letting 40k settle is probably an important thing for GW.
For sure.
I think the new plastic AMR got released and then immediately was out of stock because because the Middle Earth community has been salivating for that guy for about 5 months now.
And much nerd rage was had.
Yes, yeah. Which I saw a meme which was changing the community slogan from "When is AMR coming out?" to "When is AMR back in stock?" Because that many got bought, which is only a good thing, really. Cool. Okay, so I think that probably rounds us off. We've all done varying degrees of hobby, which is really cool. 2 of us are working on new armies, and 1 of us is working on a current long-term project. So that's pretty cool. So stay tuned and join us in our main segment, where we will be joined by this week's special guest, Black Library author, Mr. Ben Counter. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And you're still here with Callum, Ricky, and Sam. And, hey, baby. And we are actually joined with our very first special guest, Black Library author, Mr. Ben Counter.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh,
that voice.
Oh my God, it's Ben Counter.
Yep. Yeah. Every now and again, I like to give something back to the little people. You guys are the wind beneath my wings, so I really couldn't do it without you.
I do love you.
Jam in my jelly roll.
So Ben's got to be an on-off acquaintance with me and Sam for about 10 years or so, probably.
It's something like that, yeah. It's not much shorter than since I've moved back down onto the south coast. So something over a couple of different moves of Nerd Shop, as we've sort of percolated around the sort of Portsmouth, Haventy, Solentine kind of area, and we've sort of followed. We've been part of the same flock that suckles at the teat of whatever local independent gaming shop happens to be open at the time.
Yep. So we'll just quickly pour one out for the bunker games.
Oh yeah, happy days.
Oh yeah.
Great.
What a hairy teat it was.
Yeah. What a great venue to get absolutely blind drunk when playing Magic on a Friday night. And having the most outrageous team names for Two-Headed Giant, which we probably won't ever be able to utter on.
We won't be able to say them in any way which can be retrieved later on in an electronic form.
Yes. Yeah.
Having said that, I do actually have our conversation from earlier recorded.
Ignore that.
It's a deep fake, the audio deep fake.
Yeah, that's it.
Fake news.
It must be. Obviously, Ben is a good friend of mine, and is quite a lovely gent in the local community. So you do quite a lot of different ranges of hobbies. Is that right, Ben?
Yes. So while you chaps play 40k and fantasy and stuff a lot and are gamers, I kind of I'm a miniature guy first. I'm a massive miniatures obsessive. I love painting models. It's how I calm down my brain. So I painted models for a bunch of different ranges. Right now I'm trying some mecha modeling. But I always do tend to come back to Games Workshop models. My other great nerd love right now is Infinity Miniatures, which is it's a Spanish company called Corvus Belli, which make a miniature game called Infinity. And I think them and Games Workshop do the best miniatures around at the moment.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of the Infinity stuff. I've got some in a box somewhere because I odd-handed buy random things all the time because I've got a problem. And
you can quit anytime you want. You just don't want to, and you won't want to tomorrow either, or the day after that.
Yes, yeah, it's either that or I'm in too deep, and they'll have to bury me with them.
I mean, some people like really into heroin, so like this could be so much worse.
Hey, if Warhammer made me skinny, I would be all over it. Fantastic.
I'm sure it could.
I don't think it does.
So,
as he looks down.
If I did 10 press-ups for every miniature I've bought and not finished painting, I would be, well, dead, but not seeing significantly better physical shape.
I'm pretty sure I could build a house out of them.
Yes.
Which is a horrific thought. So outside of painting some absolutely astonishing miniatures,
Thank you, Poppet.
quick, I've got to work the shaft. And which you've won awards for, if I remember correctly. If you want to tell us a little bit about that.
My proudest achievement and my most treasured possession is a Golden Demon from Germany in 2007. It's a Games Day Germany 2007, third place vehicle or monster. And it's the old Seb Purbett Nurgle Demon Prince.
Yes.
And this was back before you had shades. You had to use inks, and back when
times.
these were. It's the kind of thing you look back at like, man, but things were better back then. Everything was beautiful and handcrafted. It's because everything took bloody ages. And I mixed them with acrylic gel medium from an art shop, so they dry without a little line around the edge. And this was proper alchemy, and I won my Golden Demon, which was a genuine life ambition. So I've done that now.
It's a beautiful miniature, and I believe it's still on display in Warhammer.
It's been there for like 10 years. Yes, it's on sort of semi-permanent loan to GW Portsmouth. It's in their cabinet because no one ever comes around my house. They're not going to see it. So I thought, yeah, you guys can show it off.
Fantastic. So if you're in the area, pop in, and that beautiful Nurgle Demon Prince in there, Mr. Ben Counter. And among loads of other fabulous things that you've painted over the years.
They've got loads of stuff of mine.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah, you're at the point where you've got about half a shelf in there.
They gave me back a load because we've had these in the back and we haven't got room for them. Can you take them away, please? So I've got an orc army in a box that I wasn't doing. Like, here you go. Like, wow, I forgot I even painted that. Job's a good one.
That's always good. So what are you currently working on? Anything GW related?
So at the moment, I'm trying to paint stuff for the new 40k edition. So I would like to play some games of 40k. And I have a few times in the past. And a new edition was a great excuse to get hyped up. One of the things I enjoy about the hobby is that as the companies involved get good at communicating what's coming up and getting us hyped up about them, I find it quite good fun to anticipate what's coming out and get stoked for like, wow, those things look amazing, and really look forward to things. It's just a nice feeling. So the new edition let me do that, and I thought I'd get an army together for it. So my main project right now is an Agents of Bile army, because Fabius Bile is awesome. He's one of my favorite characters in 40k. He's just so evil and also quite swag. And
man's got a cane and a big coat.
He's got a cane. He's properly pimp. And so I got
he's missing is the feather.
This old creepy old man pimp, mad scientist. And when I found out he was going to have an army of his own, I thought, well, this is a great basis for a project, like something I can really plan out and get excited about and actually put into motion. So the idea of the army is it's a theme army where the idea is Fabius Bile is capturing Primaris and doing gross experiments on them and then sending them out to get combat data on his new minions. So at the moment, it's Bile, 2 units of Chaos Space Marines, and some Raptors, and I'm painting up some Obliterators. And everything is converted because I don't believe in making life easy for myself. So everything's converted, including Bile, which is done because you just get him in a box. You don't need to convert to Fabius Bile. But I thought, I want to make him special, and I happen to have the walking throne skeleton thing from one of the Ossiarch Bone Reapers models. I'd done something with the guy who sits on it, and I had the throne left over, and I thought, well, I can't not do this now. So Bile is sitting on his throne, which makes him even more pimp. I'm very proud of that. And then the Chaos Marines are Phobos Primaris with head swaps.
So stunning.
I went through the whole website, the GW website, just looking for weird heads. And the aberrants, one's got the heads from the aberrants, one's got the heads from the arco-flagellant kit. And I've just got the meat grinder box, which have got really cool like heads in cages, which is the perfect look. The obliterators are the classic converted obliterator, which is Skaven Storm Fiends with loads of random stuff bolted on. I got the Talos kit, the Drukhari Talos kit. So they've got the heads and a bunch of other bits and pieces and tentacles and things from that, and they're coming out really nicely. So that's the 40k, the main 40k project. I also have just finished off a Knight, Imperial Knight. But like self-improvement or the cleaning of a house, painting an Imperial Knight is never really finished. But I will have 3 Knights at the end of that. So add a couple of armigers and that's an army. So that's the other sort of Warhammer GW type project that I'm working on now. Along with, at any point, I have a bunch of different bits and pieces lying around. But those are the kind of the 2 main like army projects I've got going. And I don't normally do army projects. I normally just paint models. But this edition has given me a bit of an impetus to put together something I can play some games with and basically have another way I can show my models off by going to a club or a tournament or whatever and saying, hey, who fancies a game? And just bring out this.
That's what got me excited when I saw you posting all this Agents of Vile stuff.
The weirdest army.
Like, oh my God, Ben's doing an army. Oh my God.
I've got an army finished. The only army I've got finished to what I thought was a decent standard recently was a small force of Custodes, and I played with those a few times. Played with you Callum, a few times at the local club. And that was cool to get those out and show them off and actually experience the game, especially with someone who is fine playing a teaching game. I really appreciated that this isn't a tuned list with which you're going to absolutely spank me, even though I have no doubt you could do that at will. But more just, I'm fine introducing the game to someone, not worrying too much about who wins, and showing off all the various bits and pieces that fit with the game. I played one game with the Agents to Buy, which was very, very small because that's all that I had painted. And I like the addition. It seems very streamlined. All the missions are basically the same, as in they're based around holding points on the board, which means I think that there are no armies which will be hyper specialized for specific missions or types of missions. It feels like if you go to a tournament, for instance, even if they all have different missions per round, they'll all be your armies broadly doing the same thing in each one. So it feels like it's going to be a lot less swingy. Like a lot less will be decided before the game starts.
Yes, yeah. So there was definitely a couple of instances in the previous edition where some armies would definitely struggle with particular missions. One being where you didn't get an invulnerable save in the middle of the table, which screwed over Harlequin demons and knights.
Oh my days, that sounds horrible. Jeez.
It was great if you were playing Genestealer Cult, because the idea was the person who had the most amount of models within a reducing like objective space in the middle of the table won. So I can remember playing at Confrontation last October, where I played against 4 knights. And we sort of looked at the table, and
I've got 4 in the middle of the table. How many?
And I had 16 Genestealer Cult blips in the middle of the table, and each one of those is a unit with guys. So I had about 130. So we decided that I won that game, and we played, and then we just played a Maelstrom game instead.
Fair enough,
because that was going to be fun. Like you say about the missions. The second can already. It's been a long week.
He's going to be hating himself later.
So I like the fact that you can pick your own secondaries, so you can design how your army wants to play, and then you've still got to engage with the opponent in this generic combat space where holding the middle of the table is great, which is really cool. So I can say that I'm probably one of the few people who's seen your Agents of Bile in the flesh, which is great, because we had a small game around mine. And like I said, I'm happy to adopt a teaching role with someone as lovely as yourself.
Darling, what a lovely this is.
This is all this podcast is. There's no hate for anything.
No, we're not going to turn into like Kilroy halfway through and just start hurling abuse at each other.
Not quite.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could. It could.
It could.
It does.
But you won't get any abuse your way. So yes, that's pretty great. Yes, I'm a big fan of that.
Mhm.
So a lot of people like in the in the community will know you from your Black Library work, which I'm a big fan of. And I got very excited when I was a younger lad when I found out that the gentleman who wrote Soul Drinkers was actually from my local GW, which was great. But you've worked on a lot of stuff outside of like the core GW Black Library stuff.
Yeah.
Is there any of that you'd like to talk about?
Sure. So I've previously I've written a stack of books for Games Workshop that includes the Soul Drinkers and the Grey Knight series and a couple of the Horus Heresy books. Lately, I've been doing quite a lot of role-playing work. Carbon 2185, which is a D20 based cyberpunk game. I've written some material for that. And that was lots of fun. Cyberpunk's loads of fun. It's all like mirror shades and artificial intelligence and artificial limbs and robot rights and things like that. It's really good fun. And it's a weird retro sci-fi, but not retro as in 1960s, retro as in 1990s, which is now retro. Yes, which is really cool because I remember this stuff being around in the first place, like pre-Matrix, like cyberpunk stuff. So that's what I've been working on. I'm hoping to get a podcast out the door as well, like a dramatic podcast, which I've had percolating around in my head for absolutely ages.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm always sort of, the novels in the offing, all that sort of things, all floating around. But at the moment, it's role-playing stuff, prepping for the podcast, which I hope I'll be able to foist on the world pretty soon, and then just working on my own bits and pieces in the background and running RPGs. I'm doing a lot of that at the moment.
Oh, great. Well, I'm sure you'll be able to get it off the ground. These three idiots have been able to find a piece of software to record it, but I'm sure yours will be well followed and of a much higher quality than ours.
Someone who knows what he's doing is doing the editing and stuff. So I'm very, very grateful that the difficult bits for me are all taken care of. I just have to write it, which is like not easy, I guess, but that's more my wheelhouse.
Yeah. We just sort of foisted that on Sam because he knows computers better than me.
That's what you get for being competent. You have to do everything.
Oh, that's a computer.
That's my competency level. I'm awful at it. So that's very cool. And you say it's sort of like a dramatic theme podcast that you're working on.
Yeah.
You've done a few Amdrams as well.
Yes, I'm participating in local theatre a lot. The last thing we did got in just under the wire. So I'm always curious about the media that's being produced right now, what people will think when they listen back to it in, like, say, a year's time. Right now, we're in the thick of Rona 2020, and we got in just under the wire before the theatres all closed, like the week before. And that was a version of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which I produced which I was in. It was done by Humdrum, which is a Portsmouth-based theatre company who do slightly left-wing things. They do sort of maybe Agatha Christie's or whatever, interspersed with weird things, and this one was a bit more weird and was lots of fun because it's extremely nerdy.
Quite left field. I love Dirk Gently.
It's mega nerdy, and so the nerds amongst us really got into it. And was lots of fun. Then I got to pretend to be a ghost and go woo and run around wearing a white suit, which was got the laugh which I intended. And before that, a load of different things. So I'm doing that for quite a while because it's got such a good social side of it. I really value that. It's a company which is both quite good and very welcoming and very social, which I'm glad it has both those things. I was in a version of Dracula before that, where I was Renfield, the Victorian madman, and I was literally barking mad and rolling around the floor and screaming. That was loads of fun. And in an Agatha Christie, where I was like an old walrusy gentleman. Again, I enjoyed doing that because it's so different. And I can't even remember how many things I've been in, but that while sitting at my desk painting models is great and I love it. The local theatre lets me do something where I can be creative with a bunch of other people as well.
Yeah.
So I really value that. And we tend to perform at the Spring, which is the arts centre in Havant. The last few years, Humdrum's performed things there. We're hoping we can get back into there pretty soon. Everything is up in the air a bit. But that's the aim. We're definitely hoping to be there when the doors start opening again.
Awesome, great. Can't wait for that. I know that that's a big part of your free time.
Yeah.
My
my non-sitting on my ass in front of my computer painting for hours at a time hobby is local theatre, which unfortunately I haven't. The painting models is great to do in a situation of lockdown, whereas obviously local theatre can't happen. So it's been very kind of uneven. My brain space for the last few months, but with luck, the balance will start returning again soon.
Awesome. Yeah, can't wait for that. Bit of normality, and I can't wait for everything else to be open. So I'm not just expected to have my models painted just because I can't go out and do anything. Because that's a form of oppression I can't abide.
I'm a gigantic miniatures fascist. If you play with unpainted miniatures, I will judge you. I won't say anything, but you'll be able to see it in my eyes.
That's why I used one of my only painted armies when we played that week. And one of my favourites.
Rumbling across Chelsea.
The worst I've ever seen is an army which is a bunch of legs glued to bases, and I just thought of just packing up and leaving the GW, but I didn't. I was at least polite enough to see it through, but I thought it doesn't matter who wins. I've got the moral high ground.
Did you play Chris?
I was going to say, was it Chris?
This was many years ago. I can't even remember which GW it was, if it was in London or in Pompey.
In that case, it was a small boy called Chris.
But I was so offended. I at least, no matter what happens, I like the idea that no matter what happens, I've got a kind of victory because I've got to show my models off and my army is fully painted and base and everything like that. That gives me a sense of inner security. I can't really fail. Which is quite a nice feeling. Actually, I'm fine. There's no real risk of crashing and burning. It's quite a nice feeling.
I have to admit, even as much as I lament painting, it's the part of the hobby that I don't really enjoy it. Sometimes I can find something, but actually having a fully painted and based army is nice. Something that it's
a good feeling, isn't it?
It is nice, yeah, and especially when it's not just done to a minimum tournament standard. When you've actually put the time in, painted all the details, crafted bases and everything.
Yeah.
It's a definitely different feel. And
it's kind of like anything else creative. It's an extension of yourself, which sounds quite high-minded, but I think it is one of the ways in which we can express ourselves. Even if it's just what things we think are cool or what things how much effort we're willing to put in or whatever. It's always says something about us, anything creative, anything arty. And there's a real satisfaction in being able to put part of yourself into something you can then show off to other people. I mean, it's maybe a bit of a selfish reasoning, but you do get to, if you think Space Marines are awesome and you want to make them look like heroic medieval knights, but in the future, because you think that's cool, you can make your army look like that. Or if you're really weird and want to have a bunch of mutant medical experiments shambling around, created by a grinning madman, you can do that as well. And it does our hearts good. Our brains like that. It is a really good feeling having your army finished and being able to kind of put something of yourself onto the gaming table and that's something which isn't dependent on winning or losing the game.
That's true, and making your own mark on the not necessarily on the canon, but on the universe and how people see that is pretty great. Just a quick side note: bet you didn't think it would get that deep on a podcast where somebody's 2 cans into Budweiser already. Well, that's right.
just because I'm on the finest regional wargaming podcast that also sounds like a euphemism for venereal disease, that doesn't mean we can get a little bit deep.
Yes, War Down South is something that's has been.
Does sound like an act.
I'm afraid he's fighting the war down south. If one gets one's meaning.
But we've got it now, and we're sticking to it.
Yep.
So, it's
in the record books.
Penicillin won't help. Right. So sort of branching off from that, the idea of putting a fantastic army on the table and then having to look across and see a sea of legs across the table. That sounds like a pretty negative experience. So I'm going to open it up to the rest of the guys. So if we start off with with the dregs, and then we'll get better as we go. Worst sort of gaming experiences, worst. Not necessarily like feel bad within the hobby, but the thing that made you go, "Oh my god, I can't believe I've seen that," and that's without judgment on people's abilities to build and paint.
Yeah.
Sam, go.
Oh, worst gaming experience. I mean, it's also one of my favourites. I remember we went over to Games Workshop Pool for a weekend kickabout, and we ran into this was in the days of Warhammer Fantasy, and we ran into a gentleman that is forever known in local circles as 2x4.
I was wondering if this was come up. Yeah, carry on.
This gentleman decided he needed movement trays for his army, and he decided trays are for chumps, and he would have movement tray, which was a 2x4 which stretched across the entire board. And during matches against various people that we were with during the day, he had tried to swing the lead somewhat and had claimed that you were charging his units when passing over an empty section of 2x4 because you were making contact with his movement tray. So yeah, that really that's just I still can't get my head round to it to this day. It is both one of my favourite hilarious moments of hobby and just utter mental despair.
Utter ridiculousness. And it wasn't like a large piece of MDF that fit all of his units on, like a carry tray. It was literally a bit of wood that stuck out like 3 or 4 inches in front of the guy's models, and it just had all of his units on. And whenever you go, there's some commotion in the back of the room. What's happened? Oh, someone's playing 2x4. Which is great. Can't remember the guy's name. I think what was he playing with? Ogres, something like that. I think
it was ogres.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about the 2x4 argument because I was using the stupid Storm of Chaos Zinch Demon list, so I just flew over him and shot him in the arse.
Is that the event where you played Mr. Stu Black, of now in charge of Warhammer 40k fame?
It is indeed. It is one of, again, greatest and most lamented hobby moments of my life. I'll let you explain it. It's just it's too painful, that dice roll.
I'm assuming that was the time when Stu was like pool manager,
I think he might have been
or somewhere like that.
Yeah, he was either a manager or he was regional manager or something like that. So I think you were using your demons and he was using beastmen or something like that. And Stu had managed to surround Sam's unit of horrors of Zinch, and Sam made the most ungodly roll I've ever seen and passed something like 15, 16, maybe even more 5-up saves without taking a single wound in this combat.
It was a bloody lot.
It was genuinely like, I can't believe that's actually been rolled. But then I believe Sam lost the combat by 1, so he had to take a leadership test as his Warhammer Fantasy, and then rolled a double 6, and his unit of horrors all disappeared.
And that was the end of the game. It was literally the most crucial dice roll. Stu had to batter those horrors. He didn't. And my brain burped and I went away.
Which is also something I couldn't quite believe happened. Because I was like, oh my god, Sam's going to win this game. I'm going to roll some dice in my game. Sam's lost his game. Fantastic. So what about you, Ricky?
Do you know what? I didn't know this question was coming up, and I feel a little bit on the spot. And
Ooh.
I'm really unsure. I think all the real negative experiences in my hobby life I've put into a little box in the back of my head, and I've locked it, and I'm trying to struggle to find the frigging key. But I think it was it when we went to War of the Roses up in up the north,
Yeah.
And we're at the Sanctuary Gaming Centre, which is a stunning gaming centre. It's a shame they've let it go and moved to a new one. But the tournament wasn't WYSIWYG, was it?
No.
Do you remember?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
You
God.
know where I'm going with
Oh,
this.
dear.
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah.
When you had Angron running, not Angron, Araman or not Araman. See, we're still talking 40k.
But it was a 40k tournament, Ricky.
Is that
Yeah, I
Archaon?
know. See, that's what it is. Seriously, how many of these have I had? Hold on. It was Lord of the Rings characters as proxies for 40k characters.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I think I do. I can't remember what the army was, but just sort of seeing actual 28mm models rather than GW heroic scale across the board.
Yeah, that's
like,
it.
What even is that?
It was very bizarre, and there were like a Mechanicus, the Dune crawlers and stuff as like Predator tanks and stuff. He literally just got his miniature collection, thrown it on the table, and had a key sheet going. Right, this model's this model's this. It was just the most ludicrous thing I think I'd ever seen in my life.
Great stuff.
Yeah, that's for some reason the only one I can remember. I don't know why. Maybe it's the only one I'll let out.
That's fair enough. I have a great moment of shame which came in. Was it? I think it was the last time we went up to the Caledonian Uprising.
Is this when we were in the basement?
No. The last time we played
when they did it.
Yeah, the one after, not the one where we were relegated to the basement because we were playing a Highlander format. So I played a lovely gentleman whose name literally escapes me right now, and I was using a Tau army, and he was using a Space Wolf, sort of Death Star, typical invisibility, rerolling invulnerable saves, and all of that. And the 40k community had played a rule for some years, especially at this event, where you couldn't. If you had a rerollable save, the reroll was only ever passed on a 4+. And it was it was to mitigate people running around with 2-up rerollable invulnerable saves, and whilst they're being invisible, so they're only ever hit on 6s, and just tried to help curb these ridiculous units. And so I was like, oh, I'm glad this rule's in place, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to kill a single model in this army. And I explained the rule to my opponent. He was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't read that in the rules pack, but I'm pretty sure it's there. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's there because they've used it at all of these events and every event I've been to in the past couple of years. So we played a game, and I managed to squeeze a victory out just because he was re-rolling 2-up invulnerable saves to a 4+ instead of a 2+. And then it was pretty much after we put the result sheet in, we sort of looked through, and the rule wasn't in the rules pack in the errata.
So did you ask him if he liked dags and then run away?
He came over to you, didn't he, while we were all sitting around having a chat?
Yeah, we were having a chat, and he was just like, oh, yeah, it's not actually in here. And like and this was the first game of the weekend. So I, just the pit of my stomach just disappeared, and I was like, oh my God. I'm pretty sure that's in there. Genuine disbelief because this event had played it previously. All of the events at the time had been playing it. So I sort of rifled through it. I double checked. Oh, this is the latest. Oh, okay. Well, okay. You've won the game then, because you can't win a game that was definitely only predicated on your opponent not being able to play entirely by the rules of the game, and you having convinced them that to not check the rules pack and go, oh yeah, don't worry, your stuff's only actually half as good as what it's supposed to be. So that was and I've played the gentleman at a couple of events since. And we have a laugh about it, but even though I gave up the win, I conceded the game to him, so I took a points hit and made sure he got his weekend off to a better start than it would have been. I still feel
the Slater maneuver was born.
Yes, yeah. I can't I still feel stupid about it now that we didn't just go, yeah, we'll just double check the rules pack that this artificial rule that the community put into the game is definitely here. Yeah, it must be. So I make sure I double check everything from now on because I felt like a bit of a twat. So yeah, that was probably, and that was entirely on me. I created that experience where, you know, I essentially cheated my opponent out of a win in a game, and then just felt awful about it afterwards. So we rectified it. It was all fine because he would have won the game. Like when you're hitting on sixes with a Tau army and he's got 2-up reroll of an invulnerable save, that game is only going to go one way. So
I don't miss that edition.
No.
I feel this conversation's turned into a little bit of a,
it's a humble brag. I did the right thing.
Yeah.
But like genuinely, whenever I think about it, I'm like, oh my god, like you were that guy who just made up a rule and you know got your opponent to believe it. So that's one of the worst things you can do in this hobby. So I feel bad about that. So on a sort of lighter note, best sort of experiences. So if we start with you, Ben, so obviously that can be gaming related. I know you say you don't play too much, or anything really within the community that really swells your heart with pride, makes you feel great, makes you think, oh, that was good times. This is our old man reminiscing hour today.
I have very fond memories of first learning how big this game was in terms of what you could do with it and the depth it has. So this was way back in Rogue Trader days. First started reading White Dwarf, and it was a almost mystical experience when the new one came out and someone managed to find a newsagent that stocked it, and they'd bring it into school because I was a child, and you'd read in the library and be mega nerdy. That was a very fondly remembered time. This was back in I remember vividly when Space Marines went up to toughness 4. I think it's toughness 4. I remember the first ever Space Wolves army list, which was in White Dwarf. It was over 2 or 3 issues, I think. And that was when the very first was it Ragnar Blackmane and Ulrich the Slayer and those models came out, which were in service for decades, like 20 years or something afterwards.
Yeah, only just been replaced.
Well, they're Phoenix Laws are about that time, which have not yet been replaced. Jane Zar's the only one. You can still, it's out of stock on the website, but Asurmen and Karandras. Karandras is my funny worst experience with 40k specifically. I played one of my very few 40k games with a little Biletown Swordwind army. And then it was led by Karandras, and the first turn, the Fire Prism fired, scattered, clipped its own front armor, and blew up. And I regret not making a conversion of Karandras face palming after that.
Did you have any Howling Banshees?
I think so, yes.
Yes.
That was back when...
And I bet they were terrible.
I don't remember enough about the rest of the game. For all I know, they're amazing in past editions. And
Don't give Ricky hope, Ben. It's best to just hold him down and kick him in the ribs.
I like Howling Banshees. I like imagining him like backflipping and somersaulting all around the place and chopping people in half with power swords. That's awesome. I always think it doesn't really matter what it does in the game, because the best way to the army which is always going to lose is the army which you couldn't be bothered to paint or buy or finish, and you're not going to bother to finish something unless you think it's cool. So
I
just
feel
go
personally attacked by that.
Just go with whatever. Just go with whatever you think is cool. Anyway, so those moments. Also, I think when
how big the grin is on my face right now.
If there are times when the miniature quality stepped up dramatically, and there was just a kind of ethereal religious vision of, oh my god, this thing is this amazing now. There was an edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle where, when it came out, it was Empire and Orcs were the first things that came out for it, and they were kind of tent-poled by Kurt Helborg on one side and Gore Bad Iron Fist, I think, on the other, and they had these two gorgeous like portrait miniatures which came out, which instead of being a dude sitting sort of with the big sort of sculpted wide legs sitting on a plastic horse, Kurt Helborg was fully sculpted. the whole thing, and he was just beautiful.
Giant, magnificent hat.
Yeah,
giant mustache,
awesome Tash. It was the awesome Tash edition, and he and Gorbad Ironclaw were both so good. I thought, wow, that's a big step up. I'm very, very happy now, and knowing that what miniatures are and what miniature painting is getting pushed forward. That was a great feeling as well. And winning my Golden Demon was probably the best.
Yeah. That's a humble brag. There you go.
Humble brag, yeah. I've only got the one.
Only got the one. There's more than all three of us have even ever tried to do. Apart from maybe Ricky, he thinks good about himself. So we'll go with
as I stare at my painting trophy wall. Prick.
No, send a picture of it because there are quite a few. So good experiences, Ricky. Over to you first next.
I think one of the best experiences was quite recent. Probably where were we? Midway through 8th edition, when I think the edition shifted slightly, and it was the new. So this is what we were talking about earlier, when the objectives, you had the missions where you had no invulnerable save in the middle. So where were we with that? That was chapter approved.
2018?
2018, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was using my Harlequins, and we head off to Warhammer World for GT Heat 4, probably, because we usually do the last ones, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only one out of all of us that qualified with a pure Harlequins list. And I think I came 23rd, I think, out the entire tournament with just pure Harlequins. And for me, I'm 25 years down the line or so with playing this game, and I used to be quite good when I was a nipper, like as a bit of a teenager. But as I started to grow up, I think I became worse at the game because I started focusing on different things, like building armies and stuff more than anything. But
and I think
it was a good feat.
And I think you played Sam in round 1 at that tournament, didn't you? On table 1?
I think Sam was round 2.
We did make table 1. It was round 2, table 1.
Yeah.
And that was the time where, so we were at, what were we? Chapter approved, and Harlequins were insanely good against Imperial Knights.
Yep, and my army was 3 Knights, Gilliman, and a Culexus Assassin, and I then had to get out the clown-shaped doll to show the event organisers where I had been touched.
Yeah, so it was obviously a very knight-heavy edition at that point of that tournament, and I just happened to have the one army that was entirely the underdog of everything else. But if it was playing knights, it was completely like living the dream, and I played 3 knight armies. So I was like, yes! And then when I had to play a plague bearer army that was 3 units of 30 plague bearers, I was like, I've lost this, but as long as I play knights again, I'm cool.
And fell back down from there.
and I had 2 terrible games on the last day, but I still came 23rd.
Not bad.
I was happy.
Bad. Good one. Yeah, showing the world what the clowns can do. Obviously now they're insane. Almost a posse of insane clowns.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure
I'm
what
enjoying
that would
them a little bit too much. They're just so good.
Fantastic. And that was a combination of them having like quite a middling codex in 8th edition, but also a very good Psychic Awakening release in White Dwarf.
Oh, it was insanely good, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Not quite sure what that was. Maybe the drinks cabinet being opened or shut. I'm not quite sure. Sam, what about you? Favorite ever hobby gaming tournament? Was it meeting me? Winning painting awards? What? Sam?
Sorry, what? Oh, yeah.
You there?
Poddery old fuck.
Oh, God. Favorite? Oh, God, I really don't know. There's too many. There's too many good ones. There's one. It was just a very simple pleasure leaps to mind. I think it was one of the early confrontations.
Of course it was.
With the now infamous big yellow foam dice. and a certain
Do we have a photo of
and
this?
a certain podcast host yeeting it at the head of the winner during a group photo, and
I will share this.
and his
photo.
aim being true.
I was very upset because I
The Lord
I didn't
Callum
win
did
anything.
with the dice, and the dice did smoteth its target.
It's yeah. I was very drunk and very upset that I didn't win any awards. So I thought I'd ruin everybody else's great group
It
picture.
was the best ever confrontation because it was the confrontation where the bar had mystery rum.
Yep, and that's. I mean, it's something that they've continued with, which is great. But I think that was the inaugural one where they pulled out that like almost unlabeled rum from some weird off license somewhere that we made them buy multiple bottles of every time they have an event now.
It took him 4 months to find another case of that stuff.
And every
Just for
event
you
we drank
guys.
it dry because it was great. It was just like a weird coconutty rum, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Just
it was-
generic white rum. But for some reason we went mad for it, and I scratch my arms in anticipation of when I'm getting it next.
I think Paul found it in Iceland somewhere, didn't he?
yeah, something like that. It's just sort of like, yeah, it's like a fiver. It's like, oh,
What's
You made a lot of
this?
money.
We shouldn't be drinking that.
What's this? Macadi rum.
it was genuinely something like that. It was like it's just like
Bracken rum.
it was like tropical flavored alcoholic drink, and it was just
can't be bought in a shop, only from a Geordie at a market.
But yes,
Fermented sugarcane squeezings.
yes, that was a great event, and it's a moment in confrontation history. So Ricky will dig that out and share it.
I was going to say, I believe there is a still of the moment.
Yeah,
I've got it somewhere.
It's like a Renaissance painting because you can see the arc that the giant yellow dice has travelled, and people's looking in horror as they get closer and closer to the middle, and then the winner grimacing as this big yellow dice hit him in the side of the head. But everybody else in the other half not really knowing what was going on.
It's like it's like a Rubens composition in its perfection.
Yeah,
I mean,
it showed motion.
Seen the roof of the Sistine Chapel with my own eyes, having seen Michelangelo's work in the flesh. This image
is it was a
on
lot.
par.
Big fun. I can't even remember who won that one.
It's not really about who wins, is it?
He can't remember winning it either.
None of these things, I think, are ultimately about who wins anything.
No, it was a foam dice. Nobody was hurt, and I didn't actually intend to hit him in the head. I just wanted it in the picture, and I wanted more
found the
attention
photo.
on me.
I found it.
But
Don't kill the legend. Let it.
But,
it's
but
now
it
independent of you. You have to let it go and grow in the wild.
it is something to see. It is a good photo. Yes, so that's cool. Yeah, so a nice bit of community spirit there from Sam. Thanks very much. Yeah, so that's good to hear. Right, so I can't believe.
I don't even know
that's
what's happened.
Yeah, I can't believe that's what you went for, because you've won painting awards and you've got trophies and you got stuff like that. But no, some dude getting hit in the head with a dice and some guy with a 2x4 were the two highlights of your hobby career.
I am easily immune. What can I say?
But that's
Actually, the
some big
2x4 also coincided with another fantastic hobby memory, which was us having to pretend to be someone's relative for them phoning in ill so they could attend a tournament that morning, and none of us being able to do it because we were giggling too much, and then one of the party taking the phone and go, "Yeah, he can't come in. He's been attacked," and hanging up.
You didn't take the opportunity to say, "Yeah, it's coming out both ends, man." It's like Satan's Niagara Falls. It's
we were ready for it, but then we were like, no, we're going to ruin it because we can't stop giggling. But one of our parties just went, no, he's been attacked, he can't make it. We all just sort of sat there slack jawed, like, and the guy in question had to come up with some believable injuries before he went.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was a dark time in the early 2000s, but that's
for many
people did
reasons.
to play toys. Yeah. So, yes, I'd forgotten about that. That was great. Yeah, so I like a good trip down memory lane, which is what old codgers like us tend to do. None of us have talked about how second edition was the best edition, and that the old World of Warhammer Fantasy is better than Age of Sigmar. So that's really great. Good job, guys.
Was the second edition the first boxed one?
Yes, it was the first one after Rogue Trader,
with the one step up from Space Crusade, Space Marines in it.
Yes.
Yeah. And
the came with the old
the monopose
Imperialis
Goth Orcs,
and a cardboard cutout.
Cardboard dreadnought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Memories.
I don't really know because I was a child. That was like an actual babbling child at that point. So I don't remember. But the bits I've seen of it, I go, oh my God, this is terrible. Why would anybody make this? But there are people out there who love it, and I don't begrudge anybody loving for the things.
All these things are amazing at the time. That's the thing. That's how far. That's why the miniatures getting so much better is such a wonderful feeling, because they were amazing when they came out. Like, holy smokes, you can get a whole army in a box. That's awesome. Yes. I don't mind getting a cardboard dreadnought. That's fine. I'm willing to make the trade-off. And then the first multi-part Marines come out, and then the Primaris come out, and it's realizing how far the techniques and technology have to go is great. It's awesome. Like, this is 30 years old, this medium kind of, and there's no saying how far, how it'll where it will go from now.
Oh no, I can't wait for the far future where kids are playing with like hologram models and stuff that they've digitally sculpted and painted, and then they look in horror at the amount of plastic I've wasted over my life and that I've actually killed the planet. In the amount of GW stuff that I've bought and just not done anything with. So I think when I finally go, I'm just going to chuck it all in the sea. And make my impact on the world. So I can't wait to see where the hobby goes, because I'm blown away anytime GW release any models. Like, you think, there's no more detail they can do. There's no more poses they can do. No more unique ideas they can do. And then, like we talked about in the last segment, a Necron appears with 6 pistols for hands, and like. You're like, nobody thought of that. God damn it!
Or something like the last one that made me feel that was Karandras. No, not Karandras. Who's the Ossiarch Bone Reaper, Dead Xerxes guy?
Oh, Catacross.
Catacross. The last one that made me feel that was Catacross, and I thought, this is like, as you mentioned, the Renaissance painting. That is like a really nicely composed diorama in a box. Instead of just a dude with a sword and a shield, it's something way beyond that. And the Triumph of St. Catherine was another one. Like, that's such an amazing idea, and they did it, and the whole thing's in a box. You can buy it and put it together and paint it. It's awesome, and that's a thing. That's like the next step forward. I think the Silent King is probably the next one to come out, which will just be this amazing thing that just dominates the table. And goodness knows what they're cooking up next. Because I think the last time they thought, let's try this insane thing and see if anyone bites, was when they started doing the crazy big models, starting with the Baneblade years ago now. Yeah. With the Baneblade, and then I think the Tesseract, like, will they buy something that costs £100? And the answer was yes. Now it's sort of, do they want to have these diorama in a box as a part of their army, even though it's like set, it's a particular place and composition. It wouldn't wander around the battlefield like that. It turns out we love that stuff as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I can remember when they started to do like the big things for AOS, or in the end of
a Ragnarok Spider, I think, was the first of the fantasy ones.
Yeah, massive. Yeah. And that was a whopper. Like he came out, like the Glockin came out. They were great. They did the Plastic Vermin Lord, which is a great kit. And then they were just like, yeah, Archaon needs a dragon.
It's three heads.
You can't forget the Mumuk.
With 3. Yeah. I love that model to bits, but the mold lines on it and the way it goes together is one of it was one of my favourite models because it's a great iconic scene from something that was great in my childhood. But now it's like 20 years old. You're like, come on, fella.
20 years old. I mean,
put you out young. But yeah, I can remember when we first saw New Archeon and we were like, and Nagash when Nagash came back.
Oh man, yeah.
Like, this is going to be a wild ride. I don't know what's going on. I'm scared. I can remember thinking, oh my god, are we going to see Sigmar? We've not seen Sigmar. He lives in a castle, but we know that he's actually about and exists in the area.
For all we know, there's a Sigmar on a CAD program in GWHQ like right now, or
there could be 10,000 of him already boxed up on sprues,
or a gigantic Jagatai Khan riding a space dragon like that. These things are entirely possible now, which
and
is
we
terribly
won't find
exciting.
out for years. I am. Speaking of like how long it takes for that to come out, I remember when they would. They had one of the gentlemen from the heavy metal painting team talking about the Indomitus box, and he was like talking about how they painted them. They painted each one individually because they're all amazing artists. And I think it was Wade Price was like, "Oh yeah, so when did you finish these? Was it a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago?" And they're like, 18 months ago. It's like, oh come on. It's like. Man, getting to know stuff that far in advance and just being like, I know the Space Marines who've got 4 legs and 4 arms, and not Ben's ones with crazy legs and arms, but the ones that GW are going to produce. And it's just sort of like,
well, one of the memories I have from when I got to go up to GWHQ just before they said write a book for us, and they showed me around the studio, and this was before the first release of the first big Necron release as a full army, because previously it was, I think they had 3 models. Anyway, what I always remember, and the reason they don't tell you stuff are before a certain period, like they have to wait until a certain point before they can preview anything. I remember seeing they were preparing mood boards for a project. So a mood board is a pin board with a whole bunch of different images and ideas on it that sort of fit the feeling of your project. So you've got a constant reference to the feel that the project needs to have. And it was the mood board for the Demiurge. And it had the guys from the start of Fifth Element, like waddling aliens, like war is coming, those guys. I think Dennis Hopper from whichever. No, Dennis Hopper from Dennis Hopper in I think 70s or 80s sci-fi movie where he's a miner. I think it's Outland or something. It's like a sci-fi western. Anyway, him in mining gear. That was one of them. And so they were making. So if one of those guys had come out and said, "Yeah, we're doing Codex Demiurge," it would have been true because they're working on it. But it never happened because presumably they said we've run the numbers or looked at it and this isn't worth making all of the plastic kits for and that kind of thing. We'll put those resources into something else. So that little insight told me how much there is that we don't get. With a company the size of GW, which is many times the size of any other miniatures company, there must be so much stuff floating around that gets discarded or gets absorbed into some other project or gets completely reworked into something else. I remember in White Dwarf once they said, here's a writer, a game writer. He's currently working on Codex Squats. And that obviously never happened.
Never materialized, did it?
Never happened. So I bet those painters have painted miniatures that have never come out. Pre-production sort of casts from a 3D printed master or whatever, and they end up saying this doesn't work. We don't think it's going to sell enough. Whatever. That must be weird. Thinking I painted all this stuff and it will never exist anywhere else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like the fact that stuff like that exists. Like boggles my mind.
Yeah, maybe one day it'll emerge on eBay or something for a couple of grand. Like we'll never produced like mega uber rare. I think there are things like action figures and stuff which occasionally emerge like that, which are test runs or whatever that don't get made.
Yeah, you occasionally see some stuff surface from GW like that.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Very, very rarely. And
the Eldar jet bikes were a fine example of that.
Okay.
Jez Goodwin did a 3-up model of them. Good. The current ones that we see today are good 15, 16 odd years ago at a Games Day preview, and they just vanished, and then suddenly, boosh,
right,
they turned up.
I think plastic kits take like 2 years minimum or something to make.
Yeah.
There's some very, very long reading because they cost so much and take so much time to make the molds, the dies for the molds or something. There's some crazy amount of money and time and expense it takes to make them.
I would I would fantasize about doing a National Treasure Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque like raid of Jez Goodwin's house, because I imagine it's just full of things that we'll never see, things that like we never saw, and like there's booby traps.
I'd love to see you in your short round costume again.
Did you listen to the podcast that he did with Darren Latham when they were talking about the AdMech stuff?
Yes.
And so Darren obviously sculpted the AdMech stuff from concepts of Jez's, and he'd drawn these cowboy robot riding, just these crazy things many years ago, and he'd thrown the concepts around, but they were like, nah, it's not quite ready yet. You know, the game's not there, and now here we are, and they're actually making his little dreams come true. And he's like wanting it all to happen, and Darren's like, "No, we really just can't actually physically produce that. It's just not possible."
I do.
These crazy ideas.
It's incredible that there's such a group of like talented people that just make dreams come true, regardless of how far like we've come from. I mean, I think they were talking again when. They were talking about the Indomitus release, and Jez Goodwin was talking about how he still makes concepts out of plastic and green stuff and like spit and just bits that he's got around his house. And then they're like
deodorant bottles and stuff. Yes. I remember
he hands it over to the team, and they're like, "Okay, where's my computer?" And then they have the have to work on it from there. And it's just sort of that great blending of old and new, which is cool that we see a lot of like retro stuff in models now, which is really cool. Like the limited edition Noise Marine they did, that was just sort of like everyone loves Noise Marines. Not everybody remembers this ridiculous concept of it actually having a guitar that shoots.
Yeah, an actual guitar. God, I love that model so much.
So let's paint one up in leopard print and make it updated. So,
it does say a lot about the hobby and how long I've been at it that there is a distinct nostalgia market now. They can make nostalgia. Like, hey, guess what? It's a squat and it's the Necromunda High gun.
Yeah.
Or the Rattling guys in Blackstone Fortress. Like, remember way back when we did these bonkers things.
We had the Zoat.
The Zoat. The Zoat's the big one. Goodness, yes, it is. Sweet Lord, have mercy. And like you can now say, hey, remember these? We brought them back. There's like a whole generation that's gone by since these things first came out. Like a whole hobby generation.
Yeah, people have had kids. Those kids have moved out. And
and they've now got disposable income to spend on their nerd hobby at last. Oh wow, check this out! I always wanted a Noise Marine. Now there's a new one. Boom.
Yeah, so that's great. Awesome. So we'll wrap that up because that's quite a nice walk down memory lane, ending with us talking about retro stuff, which is kind of what I wanted to avoid, but it also fills my heart with glee because I mean there are things from the start of the hobby that I remember and I go, oh, that's cool. But that's because I started in the early 2000s, which is well after some people.
We now talk about Goblin Green bases and the Red period and things like that. We lived through all of this, and every now and again it gets referenced. I think when their paint job of the Noise Marine had a Goblin Green base or something like that, just to as a little nod to all us ultra geeks who remember all this stuff with such fondness.
Yes, absolutely. So that's great. So we'll round off with one of our usual segments of cool stuff we've seen in and around the hobby over the last couple of weeks. So Ricky, if you want to start us off, anything cool you've seen on the interwebs in person that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah. So on Instas, on the old Instagram for those that use that platform. There is a chap. Now I'm literally on Instagram now trying to find the guy's name because I'm absolutely terrible with names, so I apologize. He does some fantastic stuff with Primaris Marines and kind of turns them very feral now beyond the feralness of a space wolf. Here we go, got him here. So the gentleman's name is Thunder Wolfen, so THUNDERWUULFEN. He's on Instagram, and he's got his Soul Haunters Primaris chapter. Now these are absolutely beautiful. He's got some wonderful green stuffing, where he individualizes each and every model to be almost like a unique character on its own. And mate, they're just get over there, have a look, and check these guys out because they are just stunning. Even his tanks have got a World War II-esque / 40k sci-fi manner to them. Honestly, the army is beautiful. So yeah, get over there and have a look at them for some wicked Primaris inspiration.
Cool. Definitely give those a look. Sam, anything you've seen?
I've had a pretty hectic week, but I feel like I need to give a shout out to a chap I've been following for a while on Instagram. An account by the name of Follow the Black Sheep, who I've been following him for his Gloomspite painting, and it's just stunning. Like his Troggoths and his Squigs and his Night Goblins are just next level sexy. I can't adequately describe them. They're all in like different shades and colors, and I can't sing their praises enough. They're too good. Go check it out. They're stunning.
Okay.
He recently finished up a Forge World Squig Gobber. The giant squig that's just like hocking tiny squigs across the board, and I love it. It's so cool. Yeah, very talented guy. Check him out.
Oh, great. Ben, is there anything that you've particularly seen at all?
Yeah, a couple of things that stood out recently. One was I saw, I think it was on Twitter. It was a picture of a Thousand Sons librarian, but it was from a reverse heresy project. So
I think I know the one.
Yeah, the traitor legions stay loyal, and the loyal legions go traitor. So it was a 40k like loyalist Thousand Son. I thought that was a really cool idea. Like just to make a conceptual, can I make an entire army of, let's say, World Eaters who didn't go to Chaos? What would they look like in the 41st millennium?
There seems to be there's a group of guys who are maybe doing it as like a project where they've all taken one each. I think I've seen some of the Night Lords.
Cool.
Which are great.
Another one was a lady called Laura who posts as Pegastix, who she's an editor for Warhammer TV, I think, and she posts these wonderful conversions and paint jobs. They tend towards really grimy and gritty and nasty, and they're brilliant. She's done some nightmare Necrons, which just look so good, and they're just covered in crap and blood and gore and stuff, and they're kind of converted into be even more otherworldly and less humanoid. They look great. She's on Twitter and Instagram, and I really like that Rob Zombie version of Necrons. It's such a good look.
It's like a pencil artwork. Like everything's really like. I'm a big fan of her concept Free People's Army. She did the people who worship Nagash.
Yeah, it's like kind of desaturated and almost like a woodcut or something. The look of it is there's a really grotesque beauty to that, which I find is great. And I'd love to be able to produce something that individualistic and that artistic with this medium. That it has such a strong feeling and personality to it. So those are the two things I saw, which I thought that's really cool.
Rad. It's something I saw this week because it apparently generated controversy in the 30K of the Horus Heresy community. Which is something where you don't see a lot of drama very often. So I saw it. There's a gentleman called his Instagram account is Simon.Elson, Elsen, and he's got an absolutely stunning green Sons of Horus army. But there's a lot of Primaris and Stormcast conversions in it. So lots of his characters are larger in scale compared to the rest of his Marines.
These are lovely.
And apparently some people scoffed at it because he was using Primaris models as a base, and they don't look that big, and they're not in age appropriate armor, etc., etc. But the army is absolutely stunning. It's beautifully weathered. The sea green he's got on it is outstanding.
It really is something.
And the characters are lovely. There's a librarian who's made out of one of the Stormcast Retributors. So he's in a beautiful standing pose with all the lightning on his armor. And then there's I think a captain with a jump pack who's made out of a prosecutor.
I'm just looking at one he's made out of the Gravis captain, and it's
yes, absolutely
beautiful.
Stunning. And the brass work on the sorry, we've got a bit of interference there. We've got the brass metallics on the army are beautiful as well. So I just thought I'd give that a shout out. A bit of 30K. We don't talk about that too often, but I saw it because I saw the controversy and then got super nosy and was like, how can anybody be upset with this? It's lovely. And it still looks like what it's supposed to be, and that's the important thing.
I think the thing with miniatures and fantasy and science fiction is you can do whatever you want. And you can have your opinion about it as well, but you can ultimately make what you please out of this. And there's no, unless you're really offending someone, there's no right or wrong way to go about it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the Horus Heresy is, the way I like to think of a lot of it is that the Horus Heresy, the miniatures and the artwork are as much propaganda produced at the time as anything else. So you can make things look like however you want, and they're just as legitimate as anything else.
Yeah, that's certainly a good way of thinking about it. So I saw that. That's some beautiful stuff by Simon Elson. Cool, right. So I think that's pretty much us done. We're pretty much on time. So I just wanted to ask the guys to give Mr. Ben Counter a quick round of applause for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Hope you've enjoyed yourself. You brought a certain level of class to us, which we don't normally exhibit, and we'll be back to our usual foul-mouthed and pissed up selves in the next episode. Don't you worry about that. Hope you've enjoyed yourselves, and I hope everybody from around the world, because we are almost definitely international. Last time I thanked our possible friends in America. We weren't sure if they were using a VPN, but we can say that we've definitely got at least one listener in the Republic of Ireland.
Yay!
That's two different countries to the UK, and that's great. So thank you very much, guys and girls, everyone for listening. Feel free to fire us any questions over on Twitter at War Down South. And what's our Instagram? Because I don't handle that, Ricky.
War Down South Podcast.
There you go. Nice Jam Podcast simple. On the end. And you'll find us. Type War Down South into pretty much anything and you'll find us. Sam is quite good at his SEO. And we're on YouTube. This episode will be up shortly after it is released on all podcast platforms. Just any final words for anybody?
If you want to hunt me down, I am at Ben Counter on Twitter, and I'm Ben.Counter on Instagram. I promise I will try to put more miniature pictures up there. Photographing miniatures is absolute witchcraft. If I was as good as as I am at painting them, I would be fine. But I will try to get more pictures of these things up. I promise.
Absolutely, yes. Apologies for missing your plug.
No worries. And I would also say thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate that.
No worries. Hopefully, we'll get you.
Always a pleasure
on...
to hear you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Once, obviously, once the end of the world has ended, hopefully we'll all get to see each other a lot more frequently.
Oh,
and
so much man embracing will happen.
Yes.
Yeah, we can all get together and throw toys around the room and touch tips, and it'll be awesome.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, and you're always welcome back on if you've got a weekend free or you want to talk about anything in particular. So feel free to join us.
Well, my one of my medium-term aims is to finish an army and play in a tournament. So maybe that will be it. If there's one of those that happens in the sort of foreseeable future, that might be a pretty cool thing to come back and talk about. Actually, playing this game in inverted commas properly for once.
Yes, absolutely. We will definitely be doing some tournament coverage at some point in the future. Luckily, we've got a gentleman as part of this podcast crew who runs the absolute best tournaments for Warhammer 40k on the South Coast, and that is Mr. Ricky Robson. And where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Confrontation EV. You can also get me on Instagram at Confrontation Events. And also, if you want my personal stuff on Instagram, you can grab me at Cigarex Jest. But yeah, for event coverage and stuff, you can also grab me on Facebook at Confrontation Events. So there's plenty of tournament pokerage discussion and stuff going on there every now and again. So worth a little chat.
Yeah, can't wait to get those back up and running and attending those. Drinking myself blind and have somebody drive me home. Sometimes with trophies.
5 weeks.
5 weeks till.
Are we at 5 weeks?
Fifth confrontation.
Till fifth confrontation. Yeah.
So obviously Rona dependent, but I know that you've put all the necessary measures in place, and everyone's super excited about it.
Will you be TOing as a sort of medieval plague doctor? Will you have your big
My big nose?
your big avian mask on?
I think I could manage that.
Awesome.
It's the Harlequin way, as you know. There is actually a Harlequin mask that looks, very, Great Plague.
Great sentence structuring. And Sam.
I know, it's like talking to William Shatner.
Don't do it. I can anticipate you doing an impression. So, where can people find you and your ongoing Traitor Guard project?
Yeah, you can find me doing Traitor Guard and Grey Knight stuff at the moment over on my Instagram account, which is 40 Ammers, which is 40 AMMERZ, 40 Ammers. There's also a Facebook page, but it's just a mirror of the Instagram page. Pick your medium. Do what you want.
That's true. Did your chaplain appear on Warhammer TV? Has that actually happened yet?
I have no idea.
Because he doesn't follow Twitch. He got asked whether or not, GW, the miniatures company that crushes all competition in the world, wanted to show off his product, and he was like, yeah, sure. And he hasn't even paid attention to what it was.
Yeah, so
now,
if it was on there, if that has happened, someone send me a shot of it, because I don't use Twitch.
You can check the VOD.
Yeah, that's true. We'll get somebody to dig back. I'm sure there's somebody who watches those daily. I would have assumed Sam would have checked because they asked him to be on there, but apparently not. Cool. So, and you can just find my stuff, my personal stuff, on Twitter at Sir Callum, and through the regular podcast Twitter page, and Sir Callum Wargaming on Instagram. I don't post to that a lot because I don't really understand how it works. Normally it's for super attractive people taking pictures of themselves and occasionally food. And you, yes. Right. So just once again, thank you very much. I realise this outro has gone on for far too long. So thanks. See you next time. And we'll post up an idea of what the next episode will be once we figure out. Cool. Thanks very much, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.